Leadership. A leader must have vision. You've got to see the big picture. Do we have such leaders? Whether it's in the political arena, you are typical African so-called leader. I don't use leader when I'm talking about African politicians.
Kenyan academic professor Patrick Lumumba says Africa must wake up. He says the continent is cursed with poor political leadership and political-linked corruption. Lumumba asks that Africa should guard against foreign domination by the United States, Russia, China, and numerous foreign countries that push neo-colonialism. Kenyan academic professor Patrick Lumumba says Africa is cursed with poor political leadership and that Africans should voice their displeasure and demand for more. The rank of many political leaders in Africa are thieves. Let's call them by their names. They are thieves. They are individuals who are not interested in the interests of their countries. As long as we continue electing such individuals into positions of power, they are going to be manipulated. What then is the responsibility of the citizenry? It is to make demands, he said. Lumumba was speaking during a panel discussion of the 10th National Security Symposium in Kigali, Rwanda, which brought together some of Africa's foremost Pan-African scholars, civic society activists, and politicians.
Because it's an insult to the word. Their agenda is thinking from one election to the other. No big ideas. You go to China, see big thinking. The Chinese are now thinking about how they will relate to Africa 100 years from today. 100 years from today. None of us will be alive. None of them will be alive. That is why you go to any serious university in Africa now, they have a Confucius Institute. They are here to take charge of your mind so that you begin thinking like Chinese. They are teaching your children, you of the middle class, your children, you now tell them learn English and learn Mandarin. Because they are creating leaders in their own image. You know, when there was the conference in Sharm el-Sheikh, the COPs 27, Nigeria had the largest delegation with 486 or thereabouts, followed by Kenya with 386 for thereabouts. China had 193 or thereabouts. The United States 186 or thereabouts. Half of the individuals from Nigerian and Kenyan delegation were dead weight who were shopping in Sharm el-Sheikh. They had no idea what was happening. So when they come, they are now waiting for the conference in United Arab Emirates on 23rd to 25th November this year. Yet some individual in some ministry in this country authorized that they go. And all of them possibly were traveling business class. Those are not leaders. Those are thieves. And when you have such individuals controlling your affairs, you can't go far. That leadership is about honesty. That is the point that I'm trying to make. That you are not a leader until you are honest. Leadership is about courage. And courage does not mean recklessness. It's about doing the right thing in a manner that is orderly. Are we courageous? Are you prepared to speak your mind without fear of consequence? He's lucky that you don't have the minister in charge here. If he was here, many of you here would be groveling, Mr. CS, Mr. CS. That's what we do in Africa. We see public officials and we go on a worship mode. And we don't tell them the truth. So somebody who is a CS, somebody who is a PS is being worshipped and you claim you are a leader? Leadership is about empathy, about building a team. I was telling some young men that one of the things that amazes me and annoys me at once is when African countries go for team sports. Right now, there is the women's football in New Zealand and Australia. And when African countries score a goal and lose, the newspapers in Africa report that African team has done very well. They scored a goal. But I thought people went there to win. When an African team reaches the quarterfinals of the World Cup, we say, oh great, for the first time an African team has reached the quarterfinal. You would think that the African teams were human beings playing with angels. What point am I trying to make? A good leader creates a team, a champion team. And a champion team will always beat a team of champions. A team of champions is a group of individuals who all have talent but are each playing for their personal glory. That is why in Africa you see Africans only do well in individual sports, not in team sports. Kukimbia tu hivi, wanashinda hivi. Kwa kuwa one man's glory, anakimbia kabisa, tunavunja marekodi kabisa. Lakini kuja kwa kandanda, basi. Kuja kwa kandanda, hatuko. Kuja kwa netball, hatuko. Kuja kwa mpira wa kikapu, hatuko. Team sport, hatuko. Why? Because we are not a champion team. A good leader must build a team where there is delegation without abdication. A good leader delegates but does not abdicate and says the buck stops with me. A good leader encourages those who are serving under him or her, does not feel threatened. A good leader has high self-esteem. Unaona mtu hivi? That makes demand. Leadership by example. We talked about time here through the chair as I conclude. I've had opportunity to serve in 3 major public institutions. And I don't tell people to come to work at 8. No. I'm in the office at 6. When you are in the office at 6 and the official reporting time is 8, people will come at 7. Because they say, sasa amekuja mkubwa ashakuja asubuhi saa 12, sasa mimi nimechelewa hivi. You are telling people to come at 8 and you are coming at 10. And then you leave after 2 hours. Then you tell them to come. Leadership must be by example. By example. I love what the President of the Republic of Kenya did and said yesterday. He said, wewe ni mtu aina gani huyu? Umeandikwa na fedha za umma, waziri, mkuu wa idara, umakuja, umechelewa. Umechelewa ukifanya nini wewe? The only thing that the president didn't do, which I wish he did, was to sack the individuals immediately. Waende nyumbani huko wakakae wakachelewe huko. Perhaps it's good to forgive them on day 1. But you can see that is how you inject discipline into the arena. And the beauty is that I'm talking to you who are leaders in your own right. And each one of you has your own style. But the style of personal example, nothing is greater than that. A leader must be respectful. And I conclude with that. Lazima uheshimu watu. Lazima uheshimu watu ambao unawaandika. Ukipata mtu ambaye, you know, there is a film that I want you to watch. It's called Gandhi. It's by Sir Richard Attenborough. It dramatizes the life of Mahatma Gandhi. It's the story I tell you, then I sit down. And the scene is at the ashram. And on that particular day, the wife of the Mahatma has been scheduled to clean the toilets. And she does not.